Hello and welcome. You're viewing the Citizens Journalist podcast, Mesa County Compass, that brings you the news that you can use from a different point of view. I'm Ruth.
I'm Lisa.
And together we are Mesa County Compass. Our goal is to create an informed, current, active citizenry armed with the facts. We will be covering what's new to you, what it means to you, what you can do about it, and provide you access to the decision makers when we can. Good afternoon. We're here with Mesa County Compass, and today we get the honor of interviewing Mr. Larry Don Sukla from where, Montezuma?
Yes, from Montezuma County. Live on a farm outside of Cortez.
Okay, anyway, he is going to be with us today. Actually, we're talking about the Gorp project that is looking to come at us, and we've had already two people already talk about the Gorp project, but we need to hear Larry's side because he's got a very interesting story we want you to hear. So welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Ruth.
And please give us a little bit of your background quickly. And
my background is I was raised, my nearest neighbor was 30 miles away down in Disappointment Valley and Gypsum Valley. I'm an auctioneer. I've been a logger. I own an auction company. I own a real estate company. I had 3 landscape companies. I had a logging company. I hauled food up here to Grand Junction with one of the food trucks. And since I'm a cowboy, I built a lot of fence, and I hope I don't have to build any more.
right? Okay.
And I'm the state representative for House District 58, which is from Montezuma County to Gunnison County. Each district has 88,500 people.
Okay, and
Excellent.
what groups does it? Because I look like you have Uray as one of your.
I have Uray County, I have Dolores County, I have Montezuma County, San Miguel County, Montrose County, Delta County, Hinsdale County, and Gunnison.
You've got a large swath of Colorado.
Yes, and I actually am the representative that lives the furthest away from the capital. So I live 400 miles from the capital, and I actually can drive an hour faster and get to Phoenix, Arizona than I can to Denver.
Oh, my word.
Oh, wow. So how many hours does it take?
Not very long when you're on an airplane, because that's the only way that I can do it.
Oh, good. Oh, sure.
Very good.
Sure. Yeah. And you said you live on a farm, so you do a little bit of farming?
Yes, I'm a farmer. I raise Crown Royal grass hay, Olathe sweet corn, and winter wheat.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
And you have a wife? Do you have any kids? Or?
I have a wife, 2 daughters. My youngest daughter, which just turned 20,
Wow.
is my aide at the Capitol. One thing about legislators is you need to trust your aide. Your aide can make you or break you. In fact, in my opinion, the aides have more knowledge than the state representatives.
Well, they pretty well have to in order to keep you in line.
Yeah.
That's right.
And call back everybody. Make sure that, because I was an aide when I was in college too.
Oh, you know all about it then.
It was fun, interesting, and I worked for a farmer.
So, that's good. There's not many farmers up there at the Capitol now.
No.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, the people with common sense. That's what mine always said. Dave Sprague said. He said the farmers are the only people up here that have any common sense. They're just the rest of those people, lawyers. So. Talk to us about, you had seen our interview that we did with Amy Tooker, and you said, that's not quite accurate. So talk to us about Gorp and what you see.
What I would like to start with is the Dolores Conservation Area. And the reason I'd like to start with this is it's been going on for 15 years. And as a Montezuma County Commissioner, I sat at the table for 8 years negotiating on that. So, the first thing I would like to talk about is they talk about coordination. So the coordination is actually another word for negotiation. You're negotiating. Mm-hmm. But the way that we need to go to the very beginning. Why did Gorp happen, and why did the Dolores National Conservation Area happen?
Okay.
And what happened was, sitting on there for 8 years, is that extreme environmental groups, they wrote the Gorp, they wrote the NCA, and then they have the county commissioners and outside groups, and groups come together to negotiate the plan. So this is the way that I would look, the way that I see it. And so think of it as somebody comes to you and they tell you, well, you have got to buy a new car. And this is the car that you want to buy. And then you sit at the table and start negotiating. However, we got to back up because there's nothing wrong with my car. My car is fine. I don't want to buy a new car. But that is the same thing that's going on with Gorp and the National Conservation Area. There is nothing wrong with the Dolores River Canyon. There is nothing wrong with the 760,000 acres that Gorp is included. And so you have these groups come in, and what they want to do is they want to get people at the table, they say, to negotiate. Well, you're negotiating for something that you already have. Everything is just fine. There's nothing broken with the Dolores River or Gorp. And it's just, in my opinion, it's ridiculous to negotiate with somebody. As soon as you sit at the table, you've already lost. You have already lost because you've already agreed that you're going to buy that new car when you don't need that new car. So you should be the one that is doing the direction of what should be negotiating. And since I've seen that, the Montezuma County Commissioners are for the National Conservation Area, and this is their theory why. They're like, well, the reason that we are for it is because we are concerned that instead of making it a National Conservation Area, they will make it into a wild and scenic or a wilderness area. However, and it's all about water, and they're concerned about water, which everybody should be concerned about water. It is our most valuable resource. In fact, I believe it's the next Bitcoin that water is that valuable, because without water there is no life. Water is that important. This is where I differ with the commissioners. They're in, and one of our largest water ditch companies, which is called the Dolores River Conservancy District, that irrigates all that ground clear to Duff Creek from Montezuma County into Dolores County, is against the NCA. And the reason that they're against the NCA is because there is a dam proposed, and it is called the Plateau Dam. It's been studied for years, and it would be a pump back, but it would be up above McPhee Lake, which is the second largest lake in Colorado.
I remember when McPhee was built. So
yes. So they're saying if you sit at the table to do the Dolores Conservation Area, you are agreeing that that dam can never be built. You are agreeing. Another dam that was proposed years ago that most people don't know about, and this happens to be in San Miguel County, is in Disappointment Valley, which is where my family's ranch was.
Right.
Well, they wanted to dam that up for one reason, and that reason is that's where the majority of the salt comes and goes into the Dolores River. So right above where it comes in, the river is clear and pure because it's coming out of the dam. And as soon as that creek hits it, it turns it into, looks like a milkshake. And you guys see that all the way to here.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why this would be beneficial, this dam, is so you could stop the salt in its tracks, is they're doing the drilling where they take the salt out in Paradox Valley and then they pump it down wells, and that's what's been causing earthquakes. I don't know if you guys
didn't know that.
Yes, it's been causing earthquakes. And so you could stop the pumping in the Paradox
It's
Valley.
like fracking then.
Huh?
That's similar to fracking then.
Yes, but what they did is there is an agreement with Mexico that there can be so much salt that when it gets to the Mexican border of the Colorado River. And so they are against it. So my opinion is this. Why would somebody want to negotiate away the rights of our future generations of holding that water back? Evaporation, in my opinion, I could talk all day about the Colorado River, upper basin, lower basin, but we don't have time. But what I can say about that is evaporation is such a key. Our two biggest lakes on the Colorado River is Lake Mead and Lake Powell. And the way to understand evaporation is, because we go to Lake Powell, my family and I, is you go down there in July, you jump out of the boat, and you go crawl up on those red rocks. And you crawl up on those red rocks, and you can't be there very long because they will burn your feet. It is so hot on those red rocks. And all that water is slapping against those red rocks, and it's evaporating. You can jump in your car, you can drive 3.5 hours from Halls Crossing to Blue Mesa. You can put your swimming trunks on and jump in, and you're going to freeze your butt off. So that right there is just such an easy example of why we need to store more water up here where the water is created in the first place, where it's cooler.
Right. Makes perfect sense.
So I am against Gorp. I am against the NCA. I believe that anytime that you start a negotiation, when you are already being told you got to buy the new car when you don't need a new car, then you're going to lose. It's that simple.
That simple.
And seeing it from the, actually, and then we need to, just one other thing, because I know you have a lot of other questions.
Well, that's fine.
It-
You go as long as you want.
When,
Yeah, good.
when I was on this committee, there was 15 people on this working committee that they're talking about the NCA, the lower NCA, and they would create a committee for Gorp. So on this committee, there was 4 commissioners because the Dolores River Conservation Area included 4 counties. And then you had Whitewater, you had the river boating advocates, you had different environmental groups, and you had different entities that made up. You had a landowner that was supposed to represent the landowners. Well, we had agreed to. Now that I'm more savvy, we had agreed, and I was sitting on there, that we were going to go ahead and move forward with the National Conservation Area. So the leader of the discussions worked for an environmental group. He goes, and the next month is when we're all going to sign our name on it and approve it. The next month we go there, I'm reading through it, flipping through it, and he changed the document.
Oh,
Oh,
He changed the document, and I'm looking at this document, but this is where it got me. In the document, it said that once this group is created for the Dolores Conservation Area, once it is created, then once you go to start making decisions, if somebody does not go with the majority, time and time again, they would have the authority, the group itself, to remove one of those people on the board. So the first words out of my mouth was, well, could you remove a county commissioner? And the answer was yes. Well, that's where I have the heartburn, because the county commissioners were elected to be the voice of the people. And you're telling me that now that the commissioners are the voice for the Dolores River corridor, because they are the ones that coordinate, that work with the BLM and work with the Forest Service. And now if they do the NCA, now all of a sudden you could take that county out and they can't negotiate.
that's not right.
That's not right. And so as far as this thing about coordination, it's the same word for negotiation. And when you want to, if anybody with any kind of business sense knows that it's the start of the negotiation that matters. So you always got to make sure that you are on fair footing. And both of these proposals are not. The 2 other things about them. The other thing is, if you designate it, they will come.
Oh,
They
yes.
will come. So and I know I have friends throughout the United States. They have that app, and they like to go to every monument. They like to go to every national
course.
park, and it's a way to knock off their bucket list. So we've already seen what's going on over in Moab. You have to wait in line. You have to get a reservation just to go see the arches because you have too many people. Well, that's right over the hill from the Dolores River. So if somebody's going to look at their app. They might be from Japan, Australia, wherever. They're going to see that. And they're going to go over the hill, and now all of a sudden, we're going to destroy what they're saying that we're trying to protect. And the last thing that I would say about that is I believe, except for presidents, that there should be no politician's name on any designation of any kind of land designation, period. There should be no politician's name on buildings, in my opinion, because they might think about it. It's almost like blackmail. You might have a politician that is, a lot of politicians are narcissists, by the way, or they're all A-type personalities, but they might want to have their name on that building, even though that's not the right thing to do for the people, or they might want to have that name on that land because they know that their name is now set, in history, and that just ain't right, and that's not what's best for the people.
and I guess and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but part of my problem is people from the outside coming in to tell you what you're doing with the land that you own and saying, well, you need to make this more for boaters. Well, you don't live here, and you don't earn your living here, and you don't pay for our taxes, and you're coming in for a moment and leaving again, but you've disrupted all sorts of industries by what you think needs to be done.
The Dolores River, the National Conservation Area, my father he's either is or he's one of the largest landowners on the Dolores River. He owns 5 miles of the Dolores River.
Wow.
I have been on that river all my life, and I've seen people come and go, and I have seen the way that we take care of the land. As a rancher, you take care of the land, because if you do not take care of the land, then you're out of business. You have to take care of the land. Somebody gets on a boat every 4 or 5 years when there's enough water for them to raft the Dolores River, and they might be from New York City, wherever they want to be from, Steamboat Springs, and they see this and like, oh, this is the most beautiful place. We got to protect it. It is the most beautiful place. But when it comes to these designations, one way to fight back is to look at the mission statements of environmental groups. So, for example, if you look at the mission statement for the Wilderness Society, you're going to see in their mission statement that wilderness, true wilderness, does not have a road going through it. Well, the Dolores River Conservation Area has a road going all the way down the river except for spots.
Right.
So they're not even going by their own criteria for what they want to make wilderness.
So where do you think this is in the process? Because you think that it's not correct to say that we're not going to negotiate, we're not going to collaborate, and all the things that Amy was talking about. But the question, we asked Greg Walter about it, and he said this is not going anywhere in the immediate future. But is it something that should be a concern to us now because of how long it's been going on? And is there any push to move this out? Or is this more of a philosophical thing that we right now?
So I see so many politicians make decisions on what ifs. What if this happens, or what if this happens? And then they make decisions that take away our liberties and freedoms based on this might happen. I don't roll that way. I believe that we should fight it for, first of all, Montezuma County, when I was a commissioner and we were ready to sign it, and then we found that the other 2 commissioners agreed with me, Montezuma County pulled out of the NCA, and it died. And it died until I wasn't a commissioner anymore, and the other 2 commissioners, and then they brought it back to life. So yes, the concern is always going to be, but my grandfather said something that I'll never forget. He said, never put all your eggs in one basket. Never put all your eggs in one basket. They're putting all the eggs in one basket with Gorp. They're putting all the eggs in one basket with the NCA. And when they do that, we're going to have less miners, we're going to have less loggers, we're going to have less, the people that, the multi-use. The other thing I always talk about, multi-use. These things take away multi-use, and they make the hiker, they give them priority. And that's not fair. That's not fair. It needs to be multi-use. Everybody should enjoy it. And it is gorgeous. It's a beautiful land. It's why we live there. But we need to fight back. We need to put our foot down and say, no, we're taking care of this. The thing about it now is the BLM controls most of it. Well, the BLM is headquarters for the Dolores River, and then the other one's in Montrose. The director for the BLM is headquarters in Dolores. They have kids. They go to baseball games. They go to basketball games. So if there's something going on that the community disagrees with of the way that it's being managed, you can go right to them at the baseball game and say, hey, come over here. We need to talk about this. We can't do that with these two proposals. No. They're going to be making the decisions in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And you can't fight that.
Who might not have even been here ever.
Exactly.
And seen the Dolores or seen how it's
exactly
managed. They're making decisions based on paper. Interesting.
So we need to nip it in the bud now before it ever gets completely out of hand, which could happen at any moment.
That's the case. I think we're good while Trump is in there, but there needs to be, I don't know what the answer is, but the answer is never take away the opportunity to build reservoirs for our future generation, because we have been in a 20-year drought, and the more water we can store, those reservoirs, if they would have been built 3 years ago, we all know what happened in Colorado. We would have filled them in 1 year.
Right. And that's always been my concern about Colorado is the water. I was born and raised on a ranch in Eagle, so I know how valuable water is and how much they want it on the eastern slope, our water.
So the eastern slope can have 600,000 acre feet, and that right now that's the max. And I don't know if they're pumping that much or not. But the thing that about that, when they do take the water over to the eastern slope, it takes it out of the river, and then it affects or compact with the lower basin.
It does.
But one thing that is never talked about water is extremely important is there's 75.5 acre million feet, 7.5 million acre feet for the upper basin. That is Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Utah. And the lower basin has 7.5 million acre feet in this 100-year-old river compact, and that is California, Nevada, and Arizona. Of the 7.5 million acre feet, each state of the upper basin has so much, and each state below. What's interesting is Colorado owns 51% of the 7.5 million acre feet in the upper basin. Well, the other thing interesting about this is, so for the 100 years, we have never been able to use all of our 7.5 million acre feet. We have always sent at least anywhere from 600 to over 1 million acre feet down the river because of hydrology to the lower basin. So when they have a drought and they're telling us we need to cut our farmers up here, they need to have cuts, I totally disagree with that analogy. We're already sending you 1 million acre feet that's ours anyway. So take it out of that 1 million acre feet that we're already giving you.
And you figure out, well, like we said before, that California should do some desalinization so that
Yes.
they're right there and they wouldn't need as much and they could stop complaining so much. So there was a couple of other things that are going on. One of the things that, and I think you were involved in this is your first term in the House of Representatives
Yes, ma'am.
of Colorado. And at the end of the session, things were pretty wild. Who were because I know Matt Soper was one that was really fighting against the worst of the worst. What sort of things did you see happen, and how, because there's such a super majority of Democrats in the legislature, how do you fight that, and what kind of chances do we have in the future, and what did you do to help?
Well, you go down there and you speak as much as possible in the well. And you're trying to run the clock out. So we need to divide. There's 22 of us, and we need to be a team of 22 strong. And so what we do is we negotiate with the other side. Our leadership negotiates with the other side, and they try to negotiate to where they're killing time. Well, okay, we'll take this weekend, or we'll take that weekend. And I think that we need to do some things different. I think that the first thing that we do when we go up there is going to be to approve the rules. So last year, the first thing that we did was two things, and it was a roll call vote. After I said I do, they swore in the whole assembly. Then the next thing that you do is, do you vote to certify the election? There were six representatives that did not vote for it. Out of 100, including the senators, and I was one. And the reason that I did not vote for it is because of what happened in my election. I won by 3 votes.
Yeah, we saw that.
We saw that.
I won by 3 votes. However, what happened during the primary was they lost 376 ballots in Dolores County. It was in the Denver Post. It was, and so.
I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, what had happened is the clerk found out about it in Dolores County. Very good clerk, by the way. That's the other thing that happens. You have your Secretary of State, and they put pressure on the clerks to try to manipulate them, and they can put a lot of pressure on them. And so this clerk was down to earth, one of us, and said, we've got this problem. They make the ballots for us in Washington State. They put them on an airplane. They fly them to Albuquerque. Somehow they got lost on that airplane. Anyway, what happened, what was very interesting about that, and why I didn't vote to certify the election, was that was the first thing that happened. Then the Secretary of State said, well, we're going to get right on that, and we are going to find out what happened. I already knew what that meant. There is no investigation. They still don't know what happened. We never will know what happened because they don't want to know what happened,
Well,
right?
they may know, and they don't want anybody else to know, too.
3 weeks into the recall, after the first, not the recall, 3 weeks into the recount, I get a phone call by 3 people from the same town within an hour. And this is what they said. You're not going to believe this, but we just got our ballots.
Oh, wow.
So 21 days after the election, those 3 people just got their ballots to vote in the election that already took place 21 days ago.
Oh, my word.
My point about election integrity is there's a lot of things that needs to be fixed. The curing process. The curing process by law is 8 days.
Right.
That was during 4th of July. So they took that out, and then there was 2 weekends. That took the curing process from 8 days to 5. So all of these little things, this is the kind, my grandfather said another thing to me. He said, the simpler that you can make things, the more genius it is. So what we're doing is we're going to make it easier by the mail-in ballots, and we're going to make it easier, and then they find a problem. They keep finding these different problems. So then they come up with a rule like they do with the curing process, and then they come up with this or that, and then they just keep making the voting process more complicated. I was a county commissioner when the Dominion voting machines came in, and this was the main thing that they said. Why? And we as commissioners voted for it. I would not have voted for it now, but I didn't know. We voted for it because of this. They said that it will make our elections faster if we do the electronic voting. Well, it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. It takes forever now to find out what the results are. Of the
It does
election.
indeed. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I kind of went off into another.
This is all good.
Excuse me.
The things that we need to do that I believe that is the committees. So the committees, I'm on 3 committees. I'm on agriculture, I'm on a local government, transportation, and housing, and I'm on business and labor. And what I see there is they're saying we're going to have a limited supply, but they're not filmed. They're one of the only states that they don't film the committees. This is why it's so important that they need to film the committees. Because if you have a 43 to 22 in the chambers, right, you have a lot of Democrats that they're not going to go up there and talk. They don't have to. They already know they got to get 33 votes. 10 people. So it is by design. Unless somebody gets mad, they get used to us calling them out, and so they just sit there and play games and watch Netflix, whatever they do. So, but it's a different story on the committees. On the committees are a group of 13. It's usually 5 Republicans and 8 Democrats, or it could be a different, but it's not that same kind of ratio based on what the majority is in the House and in the Senate. And then you might have 100 to 200 to 300 witnesses depending on the bill. Well, what happens in those committees is, and you're in there for hours sitting in these committees, the Democrats can't help it. There will be a constituent, there will be a person that gets up and they will push a button, and they cannot help but to lash out. And they say some of the most awful things you've ever heard in your life. And if that was recorded, then when we find our Republicans and we say, okay, you're going to run, and now I'm giving you ammo. Now when you're up there on the debate stage and such says this, here is the video to prove that what they said is a lie. It's not true. So I believe that we can start changing seats by doing that.
Well, it certainly makes somebody more cautious, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yes. And the other thing is that I would like to tell your audience is, please, you can Zoom now. We live so far away from the Capitol here on the Western Slope. When you see a bill that you're concerned about, all you have to do is Zoom in, and you get your 2 or 3 minutes depending on people. And I encourage as many people as possible to testify on behalf of their families and their neighbors on these bad bills, because they're bad. I mean, there's 500 and I think there was 465 or 500 and some. No, it was in the 400, but 400 and some bills. That is absolutely crazy. The way that I think about it is, and then the year before it was 500. Think about a 3rd grader. So you got a 3rd grader, first day of school, you tell them, okay, I have 460 rules that you need to follow. And then you need to learn this. So you give this to the 3rd grader. And then the very next year when they're in 4th grade, you tell the 4th grader, now they're 4th grade, you still need to remember those 460 rules, but now we have 500 more. Because that's how many bills that we're passing every year at the State House. It's absolutely crazy.
And a lot of them are harmful to people.
Oh,
And I think that another problem, and we see it at the city and the county level, is the average Joe Blow doesn't even know what's coming up, what's important, what concerns them, and by the time they figure it out, one, where to find it, and two, that it impacts them, something's already been done, and it's
already over.
pointless. Yeah.
It's too late.
And so what suggestions do you have to really
My
know?
suggestions is because of the law, and your Mesa County Commissioners, bless their heart, they did this. But if it is an unfunded mandate, or if they feel like it is unconstitutional, they should not abide by that law. I hate to say that, but we are breaking our counties. The state government is breaking the counties. This is the way to look at it. I'm going to go to COVID. In COVID, what we did is we injected all these trillions and billions of dollars into your state governments, into your local governments, and into your municipalities. Yeah. And what they told us was, well, this is temporary. This is temporary. So to give you an example, in our state budget, in the last 6 years, is almost doubled. It's went from $25 billion to $50 billion. I don't know what Mesa County's is, but I know Montezuma County's has increased 40%. So, and the city, the same thing. I'm sure that these numbers are the same for your local government.
Right.
Well, this is my question. And then they're always saying, we got to raise taxes because we don't have enough money.
And we can't dial it back.
Even though they've been injected with a 40% or 50% increase on their budget. And my question is this. If the state government budget is doubled in 6 years, are your roads twice as good?
No.
No, they're worse.
Yeah.
Every service that you can think of is worse or on par, however they've got all that money. And the question to ask is why? Why? One of the bills I'm running is going to be about property taxes. It is ridiculous for us as homeowners, for us as landowners, and us as business owners, for them to double our taxes in 1 year.
It is.
Because I don't know if you guys have looked at your taxes yet, but you're fixing to see that your taxes have went up to 80 to 100%. And when you who does this hurt? This hurts the people that are on a fixed income.
Yeah.
These people are on a fixed income. They know how much they're going to get from their Social Security, which they worked all their lives for and they deserve, or whatever it is. And they know how much they got each month. And then all of a sudden your local government comes because of the state and says, well, guess what? Now your taxes are double. And then what happens? You're going to have a certain amount of elderly that can't afford those taxes. And then what's going to happen to those folks is they're going to have to sell their home. They might have to move into a nursing home, which is, they're telling me $5,000 to $7,000 a month.
Oh,
yeah.
And then what happens is they're going to use the equity of that home that they spent all their life paying off. And then the way that it works, because it happened to my grandmother, they took that money until it ran out. And then as soon as it ran out, then she was put on Medicare. So all that life savings was just blown up. So if the counties and the municipalities really cared, they should be fighting back against property tax increases. They should be saying, no, we want to keep them people in their homes. As far as I'm concerned, there should be a homestead law. I don't know how it should work yet, but if you've lived in your home for so long, I don't believe you should pay taxes anymore.
Oh,
that sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll vote for that.
Yeah.
I don't believe you should.
They do have a Homestead Act here, and it continues as long as they can fund it, but it does reduce your taxes by half if
By
you've lived
half.
there.
However, you do have to live there for 10 years
Yeah.
before you
Okay,
can.
well, I think that it should be zero, and I think that the other thing is that it should. That everybody else's taxes should not be raised, but to 4% maybe a year on the property taxes. I would like to see no property taxes, but 4%. And
At least
then
have a cap of some kind.
they should have it, and then on the people that are in this Homestead Act their taxes should be zero, and that's the way it should set. Is then what will happen is when the home is finally sold, then the counties can go reassess the home and then reassess it to that increase, and then the new property owner can pay that increase. But I believe almost everybody should be, whatever they paid for the home, that's what should the tax, because what we're talking about is highway robbery, in my opinion.
Well,
we were
it's
talking
unclaimed-
about
Your
It's
property-
unclaimed gains.
Your property
right?
went up. I'm not selling my home, but
They're-
the price went up.
You buy your house for $300,000. The county comes in and says, "Well, your house is now worth $600,000." Well, I'm not selling my house.
Right.
I paid $300,000, and I own it in an auction company. Something is only worth what somebody will give you for it.
That's what I was going to say. Just because this county says it's worth 600,000, when you put it on the market, it isn't going to make that.
Exactly.
And it used to be that they would only do like up to 90% of what the property value was. You know, and we do have a good assessor in Brett. Can't think of his last name, but we've had him on, and it's fair. But our other problem that we see too is all the mill levies that are on your property taxes too that make it go up. And you know, our county was the only group that said, you know, the property values have gone up by 40%. So the taxation base is going to be that 40% more. So we're getting this extra money. They were the only group that said we will reduce our mill levy to respond to that so that it's not so inequitable. But every other group that has a mill levy said, well, now we have more money.
Free money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're still broke.
And we all know
darn it.
how it works. No matter how much money you give the government, they will spend it
They will
because
spend
it's not their money.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the funny part of it is you never see any real results.
No, you don't.
You don't see.
That's again goes back to the meetings. Elon Musk said it best. He says the more meetings you go to, the dumber you get. I want to tell you, I have seen that firsthand. I have been on group after group after group, and they would be 3-hour-long meetings, and at the very end, nothing would get accomplished. And finally, on some of those meetings as a county commissioner, I said, I'll tell you what, you guys just keep me in the loop when you're fixing to really take an action, and I'll be back. But otherwise, I didn't come here and waste the taxpayer dollars so that you guys can talk for 3 hours and accomplish nothing.
Right. Oh, that happens all over.
Well, Colorado's coming up on really important and big elections. And we did a thing, Ruth looked at AI, because we didn't have a podcast last week, and she asked, why is there such a big divide in the Republican Party? And one of the first things that came up was it said within the Republican Party, and I think Montrose really exhibits this, is there are two groups that both think that they're right, and it's kind of ideological. There's the group that are the establishment conservatives, and they're moderate, and they are the fundraisers, and can you get some of the other things about them? They're the group that does the good messaging, and then there's the grassroots groups that say, you know, we're the rah-rah, we'll go out, we'll knock doors, and so...
They've got it here. You've got one of the groups that is one of those that's, well, it says it's emotional, generational, strategic, and deeply personal. This is one of the big things about all of this is, so it goes on. Where'd I go? I lost it. Two competing groups are your grassroots, MAGA and established wing. Focus on liberty issues, distrust of the
That's
government,
grassroots.
election integrity, strong border security, and American first populism. The traditional business-focused conservative wing focuses on electability, institutional stability, incremental policy, fundraising, and appealing to the moderates and the independents.
So what do you think about that?
Well, the first thing the first thing that I should have said at the beginning of this interview was, could you ask me all easy questions? Because this is a very, I'm joking about that. This is a hard question. I'm just going to tell you my background and why I think the way I think, and that is at the very first, my family were Democrats. My grandfather was a Democrat until Midnight Horse Campbell became a Republican. And then we changed. They were good friends, and we changed, and we became Republicans. And then George W. Bush did something that I disagreed with. I can't remember what it was. I think every president in the Olympics should sit with the athletes like he did. I absolutely loved that when he did it, and I think it should be a requirement as a president. But and then so he did that, and I was an independent. So I know what it's like being an independent. So I was an independent for quite a while. I love how they get in these fights on Facebook, and they're like, "That's not a true Republican." That you
That
know
was
that
another
right?
thing.
Okay, well, this is what happened when I was an independent. I was the first independent commissioner that was ever elected in Montezuma County, and I went to the Republican Central Committee meeting, and they asked me, "Would you please change to a Republican?" And one of the commissioners stood up, and this is what he said. He spoke on my behalf. He says, well, he says that you're not conservative enough for him. And that is true. At that time, it was not. My background is I came from a ranch where my nearest neighbor was 30 miles away, and we had so much freedoms. As grandfather said, he said there was no electrician, plumber. You were the electrician. You were the plumber.
Yes.
You're the one that built the house. You're the one that put the windows in when it broke. You did everything. You did all these things before all these occupations came around. And so you were just all around. And that was the way that I was brought up. And I was given my first pickup when I was 10 years old. It was taken away a
were
week
11.
later. Yeah.
All right.
But I think that I watched it. This is what they say. They'll say, well, if somebody's running against you, they'll say, well, change is inevitable and change happens. And I think that's a cop-out. Why don't you just stand your ground? Why don't you stand your ground and say, no, I carried a gun at the back of my pickup when I went to high school. That's how it was. And there was no shootings. And now look what we have. I got into politics because I want our kids to have the same freedoms that I enjoyed. I turned out okay. I haven't been thrown in jail yet, knock on wood. So that's why I do this. I believe that the Republican Party should all be fighting for more freedoms. Why do we have to go along with, again, somebody that has negotiated whatever the law was, or that we're already on our back feet? Why don't we start being the ones that push forward?
That drive it.
So how do you think we do that? Because we've got an election. How do you because one thing that suggested is we get the two groups to look at each other's strengths and say, you guys are really good at that door knocking, and you guys are really good at the fundraising and those sort of things. And what are our common values? What are our non-negotiables that, if you want to do this, I'm just out. And Sean had said that in a response. He said, as I can go along with whoever wins the primary as long as they don't go against a core value. But I think if we could decide what a core value was, what can't we accept, and work together as a team and say, this candidate has those things. And they talked about purity tests, that sometimes we are too rigorous and say, well, but I think the purity test is good if it's the compromise against the core value that happens. So what do you think?
I can only think about what I saw at the Capitol.
Good.
I was told that when I ran, they said that I was too controversial, and that I couldn't get. They kept saying, "How are you going to work across the aisle?" And I would always say, "Well, why don't you define the aisle?" Right? Nobody's ever defined the aisle.
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what the aisle is. I can tell you what happened the first day that I got up there. And so they said that I wouldn't be able to work with the Democrats. And I'm going to use them, then I'm going to back up to the other side of the Republicans. So what I did was that the Speaker of the House, his office is right next to where the Republicans sit in the chambers. I walked in and I said, my name's Larry Don Sukla. She said, I know who you are. And I said, I just wanted to tell you good morning. And I walked back out. Very next day, I did it again. And then I started having Republicans question me. They're like, why are you doing that? Why are you going in there? Why are you going
nice
in
to
there?
her?
And, well, I didn't know her yet. I did well, and I still am nice to her. But what I did is I go after their policies and not the person as much as possible. And I think that's the way that you do it. On the Republican Party, why can't we go after the policies and not the person? I try to do that as much as possible. And that's the way that we should do it. But I can tell you what, they did a video. I passed a law that was where you only have to register your trailers once and for the lifetime of the trailer until you sell it. And that, at the very end, they did a video. They did 4 videos, and it was done by the most by the most liberal Democrat state legislators. and it was done with, everybody was in different things. But one of the videos was just about me and about the trailer bill. Well, how did I do that? I didn't even know they were doing the video because I talked to all of them. I'm like, why are you doing something so stupid? Why are you voting yes for that?
Talk to me. Talk to me.
Talk to me. What's going on here? What I watched what the Democrats did that the Republicans don't is, and I'll give you an example. Representative English. She got up and fought the Democrats over a bill that had to do with kids when they get in trouble in school and you put them in a room by themselves. And I don't know the details of the bill, but I know that she was very passionate about it. On the Republican side, all 22 of us agreed with her. And so what we did is we actually, she fought him for an hour on the floor, and maybe she was overbearing, maybe she wasn't. I think that it's pretty hard to be overbearing when you're up there and what you got elected to do. On Sunday, that was on a Friday. On Sunday, there was a news article in the Denver Post about allegations of mistreatment of her aide. So what the Democrats do is, to make it look good, is we know we got 10 in the House. I can only speak for the House because that's where I'm at. We know we got 10, and so what we can do is we can have 10 go array. We can have 10 vote for and make it look, but all we got to do is get to 33, and then we're across the finish line.
Right.
And so they put her in line. Right? They're like, you stepped out of line, and now you're going to go back in line, and because if you don't, this is what we're going to do to you. Republicans don't do that. Republicans don't, and I don't. That's too far. That's too far crossing the line, accusing somebody of something that they didn't do. But the Republicans need to stick together as a team. I look at them as a football team. We're a football team, and we all need to stick together. We vote on different things in different ways. But in the end, if it's just freedom and liberty and less rules and regulations, I don't see how much harder it can be than that.
Right.
And the internet. So I'm very vocal, and there was a lot of Republicans that voted for it. But internet censorship is a big, big deal to me. And the reason is it's such a big deal, as a county commissioner, this is what happened to me. Why I think your podcast is so good. As a commissioner, we had a liberal newspaper. It's called the Cortez Journal. And what it did was we would make a decision. We made lots of decisions. And we would make a decision, and then the newspaper would spin it 2 days later. And it would not be what took place. So I was in there 6 years. The last 2 years, I realized as soon as we make a decision, I am going to do a Facebook post of what happened, of what actually happened. So they can't make it, and so that took about a year, and then the newspaper realized, hey, we're old news. We go out and try to put the liberal spin on it. He's already out, and the whole community already knows. And so my reason why that is so important in rural Colorado, in rural America, is this is what gives us a voice.
It is indeed.
And if you start censoring it like that bill did, then they'll come up with one group, and they'll say, okay, this group we need to censor this group, and then we need to censor this, and then it'll just snowball. And why in the world would you, according to this bill, you're going to give policing authority to your social media, all of your social media, different Facebook? You're going to give them policing power, and the way that bill wrote was they wanted you to be banned from life from those platforms.
Right.
So I'm an advocate. I know that there's some bad stuff on there. There's bad stuff everywhere we go. But as soon as you start taking away the freedoms that we have with the internet, then we're going to look what's going on in Britain.
Yeah.
Look what's going on in Britain.
Yeah.
It's just a stepping stone.
We need to have some kind of a truth. Come to Jesus type thing.
Right. And you need to talk to people
Right.
and tell them, that isn't the truth. And when that's what we think, you can see it, you can hear what the person said, and we don't edit it, and we say that's what they said.
That's what they said. Yeah. The only thing we do on editing is just try to get out places when I cough to death and that kind of thing. But other than that,
when
no.
the dog's barking, but
Dog's barking, yeah.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, it's very important that we do our podcasts and get people like you on so that your voice can be heard.
And we get truth about what's
Right.
actually going on and what do we need to be aware of and how can we be more effective, because that's the goal, is
That's
to
the
be
bottom line.
more effective, because a lot of times when you give up some of your freedom, you're giving it up for safety, which is the idea of that. And
Famous
you know,
person said that.
yeah,
yes.
what's it worth?
To me, it's worth everything, but it's worth everything, and just because of our kids and the future for all of us. You know, what we need to do is we got to get good candidates. That's where we start, and we need to have we need to have ones to choose from. This deal where they can just appoint the House members and the Senate members, and the way that needs to be revamped. There needs to be an election and consequences for somebody, and they need to be able to get up there like the recall and then one vote, and then you got a new commissioner in. That just took away the voice of the people, and the voices. You guys are my boss. The constituents are my boss. When I won, they asked me in an interview the first thing, and I said, "Well, I just got 88,500 bosses."
And that's great. And how do you communicate with all your people?
I travel a lot. I go to different events and I go to different functions. But like I'm doing my loop today, I call them circles. I'm a mountain bike rider and I don't like to go the same place twice. So I left from Cortez. I went and spoke with the Uray Republican women. What a great group of people. And they do them in their homes. And then I
That's
came
a neat
here
idea.
and then I'm going to meet an auctioneer friend. And then I'm going to go to Moab. And that'll be the circle for today.
Okay.
So just Moab for fun?
No, I'm going to go that way home.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm going to go that way home.
Yeah, safer. Yeah.
well, yeah, unless you
Maybe
get a
quicker.
Monticello Hill.
Another one of those. So you're saying we need good candidates. Do you think that we have any good candidates? That, you know, it seemed like everybody and their dog got into the governor's race. So what do you think? And nobody's saying, I want to run for Secretary of State. Important. Why aren't we running for those? And
Why don't
putting
we
up
have
candidates
people for
them?
those? Yeah, we've got so many going for governor, and we need so many other places filled.
Yeah. So what do you think?
So I'm not going to come out on which governor candidate yet. I think we've got four or five, and it's going to be good to see how it plays out. You know, when we get to the assembly, how all that works out. But yeah, I do think we have some good candidates, and I agree with you. I believe that we should have multiple Republicans running for the Secretary of State, multiple Republicans,
Attorney General.
Yes,
Yeah.
Attorney
Yeah.
General. I think that they get depressed and they think, well, we've already lost it. I have hope. I love this place, and I have hope that we can turn around. I know as a county commissioner, and they call it Colorado counties, that out of the 64 counties, that 46 to 50 are conservative counties. So we're surrounded. You kind of think about the Cowboys and the Indians. It's the Denver and Boulder is making all the decisions, but everybody around them, they are surrounded by us, conservative values and more freedoms.
Right.
And people that want physical responsibility and affordability. When talking about the COVID, everybody's house raised $100,000.
They did.
Everybody throughout the country, and even if you didn't do anything to it, well, that makes no sense. But so until we figure out how to take that down, then how are we going to have affordable housing?
How do you think we do that? I mean, because that's.
I'm going to tell you how.
Another problem.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Okay, so
Yes.
I went and I talked to a bunch of developers. They're the ones building the houses, and not a bunch, just a few. And I said, well, how do we do it? And this is what they told me. They said, well, you buy land by the acre and you sell it by the lot. You buy whiskey by the barrel and you sell it by the shot.
Ooh, I like that.
They said that it all where the developer is making their money is on land that doesn't cost as much. It's and the infrastructure. So if it's the infrastructure that costs so much. Think about it. A 2x4 in Grand Junction and a 2x4 in Denver cost about the same, right? So the materials to build a house are the same. So why is it that a home in Colorado, that let's say it's a $500,000 home in Colorado, is a $250,000 home in Kansas, because it is. $1 million home in Colorado is a $500,000 home in Kansas. Why? Well, there's less rules and regulations. That's why. There's less rules and regulations. In Montezuma County, I talked about this earlier today, to stick a shovel in the ground to start building your home is around $3,000, give or take, approximate. To build that same home in Gunnison County that I represent, $130,000. And guess who's going to the Capitol asking for affordable housing? The government that is charging $130,000 in rules and fees just so that you can start building your home.
Yeah.
And my grandfather always had a great thing to say. He says, it's okay to copy. He was talking about farms and cell barns, because we owned a cell barn. He says, go find the best farmer, the best rancher. Look at what he's doing. And then copy him and then try to make it better. In government, I tried to do the same thing. Which county's doing the best? Why are they doing the best? And then don't go ahead and copy them.
Let's make it work.
Yeah.
They're making it work, so why don't you take that back to your constituents?
And so which
In your
county is doing the best?
Well, I don't know, because I'm not in that yet. I would say that I hear everywhere. Actually, I just read about Mesa County lowering taxes, and I read two interesting things that made me think of something. They said in the article that I read that they had a healthy rainy reserve fund of $10.5 million. What's interesting about that is your guys' budget, I believe if I read right, was $289 million or something and some change.
Yeah.
Okay, the budget in Montezuma County is, let's say, $55 million. So it's a quarter of the budget, less than a quarter.
Less than a quarter.
And their rainy day fund, I'm being told, is pushing $40 million. So as a county commissioner, this is what happened to me on the rainy day fund. We started off with 9, and we ended up, when I was a county, at my 8th year, we had $36 million. And I could say, well, we commissioners did that. No, we didn't do that. We knew how to be conservative, but we had Kinder Morgan blowing and going, and the CO2 fields coming on. And so we had all this money, and I had a realtor. I was at an event, and they said, why are you acting like you're a bank? You're government. That is my money. I didn't hire you to be a banker. I'll put my money in the bank. I want you to use that for services. So you know what? I changed my tune about the rainy day fund, and I agreed with her. And so I'm like, let's start paving roads. And boy, did we start paving roads. 10 miles here, 20 miles there, 30 miles there. Because a road I've thought of as that is something that everybody benefits from.
Exactly.
Everybody benefits to good roads. And the cars cost $50,000 to $70,000 now. So as a county service, let's have good roads.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of your counties have got into trouble because there's too much fluff. You'll have, in a school system, you'll have a superintendent that has a secretary, and the secretary has a secretary. So we've put too much up front into the admin and not enough to our kids. And now I'm going to say something very controversial, because I want to leave with something controversial. And this is $5.6 million is what the Colorado State had to fund by law for K through 12. That was the number this year. And by law. Not by law, the number that went to our colleges was $6.5 billion. So we're talking, give or take, it's some change here. So we're talking $1 billion difference to higher education. And this is the thing. I have Western in my district. I have the technical college, which is unbelievable in Delta.
Oh, yeah.
I went in there and toured that. Everybody everybody that's in there, they're in there. When they leave, they got a job.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It is
They're not getting enough money.
Yeah.
They should get more money. I want to take money away. I hate to say this, but I want to take money from the bigger schools because they've already got endowments. They've already got, they charge you tuition to go to those schools. And I'm sorry, but at CU, I don't think our taxpayer dollars, $177 million, should have went for the practice field for the CU football team. Do you know how many school teachers salaries you could have raised? In my opinion, if I had a magic wand, I would take $1 billion from the higher education. I would leave the funding the same or even increase to Adams State, to Western State, and to Fort Lewis College, and to Mesa University and our technical schools. I would decrease it, and I would double the salary of every K through 12 teacher in the state of Colorado with that $1 billion. And you can't believe how mad that makes people when I say that. But I can tell you what, I'm tired of the scam. And I think the American people are tired of the scam. The books are a scam. The professor writes the book. They charge the kid $1,500 for a used book. And then they get a royalty off of the book that they wrote. We don't need books anymore. Look at the technology we got.
Oh, computers, yeah.
Yes, it's
Absolutely.
ridiculous.
Yep. Yep.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So, how soon do we need to get our little ducks in a huddle for this next year?
We need to be on it right now. We need to make sure that we're going to be having a caucus and an assembly, which I called somebody in leadership, and they're assuring me that that's going to happen.
We are going to have an assembly. That's the last word that I heard was it was sketchy.
So that is what's been going around. It's so hard to believe what is going on and what isn't going on. But I am being told that they're in negotiation for the place, to pay for the place to have the assembly.
Okay.
And so take that with a grain of sand, with a grain of salt, because that's what I'm being told. But we need to get on it now. And I see you have two district, what is Soper's district? Is it 54?
54, yes.
I believe you have two candidates.
Yeah, Jason and
So we need to get both of them out there as much as possible so that the people can see who they are. And as representatives, I would like to talk to both of them because they're my teammate. If you're a teammate that we're not going to play in the sandbox together, then I'm going to support the other candidate.
Right.
Because it's all hands on deck at the state. It is a fight like I have never seen in my life, and it's a fight for our future.
Well, I think that's probably what needs to be done with more of it, not necessarily so much the people deciding, because we don't know. You guys know. You guys that sit there day after day after day to fight these fights know who these candidates need to be in order to help you win those causes. So yes, I agree with you 100%.
Well, let me tell you then, because I'm going to go back to the question, Ruth, and this is this. We have legislators that are giving advice that are very knowledgeable about a subject. In fact, they might be more knowledgeable about that subject, and they are giving advice to take it easy up in the well so that they can get reelected. And let me tell you something, I will never be that way. I will never be that way. And what I did, this is the other thing that people need to know about state legislators. You realize that we are making decisions that affects people's lives, maybe forever, on every subject that is imaginable. Well, I'm here to tell the people this. There is nobody that is smart enough to know everything about everything.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Right. No.
And so I realized of what I was good at, and that I had knowledge at, and I realized that I didn't know hardly anything about. And what I did as a legislator, and these new legislators that come on, is they need to find those people. So if it comes to education, I know somebody that's on the Republican Party that is so savvy and knowledgeable about education. And what I do is when we have education bills, I go to that person. And I would say I maybe vote with them because we are like-minded maybe 90% of the time, 95%. But I wouldn't know how to vote if I didn't go to that person
That's exactly
and
right.
ask him.
I admire you for that.
Healthcare, I don't know much about. And I have I call it medical care. I don't call it healthcare. Healthcare is eating good. Healthcare is walking down the street and taking care of yourself. I call it medical care. And I have heartburn. I think that they call it health insurance. I call it medical insurance. I think it's a big scam. I don't think you get what you paid for. I mean, when your health insurance, your medical insurance is starting to cost more than your mortgage, we have got a problem, Houston.
We do.
So, Yeah.
And one last area. So, one thing that the state struggles with too is the homeless problem. So, what can the state do about? Because you already said cutting down on the regulations for housing, and seeing if who can get cheap land. I don't know if you're talking about getting better developers or who's getting the land.
Well, in Denver, they've got all the empty buildings, convert them. But however, our state government has made all these rules about we needed to have it AED accessible
Yes.
and all of that. So they have created all of these rules that you got this empty building, water lines, sewer lines, everything's to it, and you got a developer say, well, I can turn that into housing. But then they look at the cost because of what the government regulations are, and they're like, that's unaffordable. I can't do it.
That's true.
So if
That
they
is
cut those
absolutely
regulations, then
That
you
would
could
be
just
great.
you could go to all those empty buildings that are around. They're homeless. I was just in Dallas, Texas last week, 4 days ago. I was at a conference for all the state legislators throughout the United States. They said there was 1,100 that showed up. I was 5 blocks from where the conference was being placed. I had to walk. So I asked, well, I didn't have to walk. I could, but I wanted to walk. So I asked. I said, "Is it safe?" And they looked at me at the hotel and they laughed. I'm like, "What's so funny?"
Right.
They're like, "Of course it's safe." I walked that 5 blocks and I never seen one homeless person.
Really?
In Denver, I bought, I rented an apartment 2 blocks from the Capitol so that me and my daughter could walk to the Capitol and go to work every day. We did that twice. And after we did it the second time, I told my daughter, I don't ever want you walking during the day, period, without me because it's too unsafe. I seen homeless everywhere. I seen drugs everywhere. I was on the 6th floor right above the Denver Art Museum, by the History Museum, downtown, all these great places, the Art Museum, the Denver Library, and there was drugs everywhere. And why? Why is there no drugs and homeless in Dallas, Texas, and there is in Denver? Why, when you go to Phoenix, are the streets cleaner than they are in Denver? It's because of leadership. It's because, I'm sorry, but I represent everybody, but the people that I really am concerned about are the people that get their hands dirty every day. The person that's out there freezing, that's changing the sign when they're doing construction, or those guys digging the holes when the sewer line breaks in the middle of the night, and it's, and then we're taking the money out of taxes from them, and we're giving it to, yes, there is people that need help, that had got to buy a draw. But there is a lot of them that are capable, willing to work, and they're taking the money from that man or woman that's down in that hole to provide for their family, and then they're just sitting on their butts, and they're getting SNAP, and they're not contributing to this society.
Right.
And that has got to stop. I'm sorry, but we've got to get a lot more backbone, and we've got to say, you've got to work for this. Give them incentives. Say, hey, you don't start working, there's going to be a price to pay.
Right. The benefits go away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Ruth, do you have anything else?
Oh, I have 3 or 4 hours worth, but I think we better end it here.
You have anything else you want to share with us that we
Just that I would like to say thank you for doing this podcast. We need more of these podcasts. These podcasts is what can get out to the people. Farmers and ranchers, just because that's what I am, they work so much, and and so they don't get to see everything. They get a small glimpse of what is really going on, and this right here is what really shows what's really going on, and not what they perceive in your media that is going on, because they're two different things. Mm-hmm. What I've seen at the Capitol and what is perceived of what's going on at the Capitol, it's night and day. It's oranges and apples. So thank you. Thank you for
coming on.
Yes,
and we will, if
really
you'll come back,
appreciate it.
we'll have you again. You've been watching Mesa County Compass. This is the facts as we see them, the truth as we know it. You decide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Thank you.